Great.
Okay.
Calling the meeting to order at 6:35, and I will kick it over to Emily for the public involvement announcement.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the AMATS Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for December of 2025. Public comments are welcome and encouraged, with 3 minutes given to each speaker. After the committee discusses each item, members of the public will be invited to comment. And as some housekeeping items for virtual attendees, please keep your cameras off unless you're speaking or a member of the committee. For those attending by phone, please press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. Thanks.
Thank you. And I didn't do a roll call, but we have Diana Rhodes here, Jesse Doherty, Katie Severin, and myself. So we have 4 members. We don't have a full quorum. But in looking at the agenda, I'll entertain, I guess, not even a motion because we can't really move or vote, but I will suggest that we change the order so that we have general information first. We might be able to discuss the action item. If we have 2 more members, we could more formally vote to adopt the agenda and potentially take action. But we'll have to maybe flip those around as we go. So without needing to vote to approve the agenda, does that sound good to folks? I'm seeing some head nods.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Great. And also, we'll skip voting on approving the minutes, but we do have the minutes for folks to review from our September meeting. We can go back to approve it if we get quorum. So I'll just move us over to the general information, the 2027-2030 funding program, the TIP presentation. I think that maybe is an Aaron presentation. And one of you can share your screens and move us through.
I'll go ahead and share, Emily, because I got it pulled up. Hey, everybody. I'm Aaron Jongenelen. I'm the Executive Director of AMATS. Let me get my screen. Hopefully I do the right one. There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so I was just going to do the same presentation I gave to the assembly with maybe a little tweak since some stuff has changed since then, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to just go over our new funding program, the 2027 through 2030 TIP, Transportation Improvement Program. Pretty excited to be doing this. This is my second full TIP that I have helped to develop. The first one is ending soon, so it's kind of a big monumental thing for me in my role. So as I said, our 23 through 26 TIP is nearing completion. It ends at the end of this current federal fiscal year, which is September 30th of 2026. So quite frankly, in just a few months away, it seems, tomorrow almost. And so we need a new TIP for the 27 to 30 fiscal years. So one of the things to note is our new TIP must be approved by the end of this current fiscal year so we can keep projects moving forward. We're hoping to have everything approved by probably the committees by March of 26, and then incorporation of the STIP maybe a month or 2 after that. So that should give us plenty of time in case any changes need to be made or adjustments made. So looking at the funding program, I just wanted to kind of go over where the funding stands for everything. So there are kind of 4 different pots of funding to really think about, or groupings of funding. First, we had the AMATS funding, which is about $50 million a year over the 4-year period. So about $200 million for transportation projects. These are complete streets projects, active transportation projects, plans and studies, pavement replacement. So these are the tables 2 through 6 in the funding program. Then there's the DOT and PF funding, which is generally about $145 million a year over the 4-year period. So that's $573 million, give or take a few million here or there, for transportation projects. And that covers things like the Highway Safety Improvement Program, so safety-specific projects, the National Highway System, or NHS projects. So those are typically the larger scale highway or capacity type projects. And those covers table 7 through 8 in the funding program. Then there's funding that's specific for transit in table 9. about 17 million a year over the 4-year period, about 100 million total for transit projects. And that's for the Public Transportation Department in the Municipality of Anchorage and the Alaska Railroad Corporation. That funding goes directly to them, and then they split that funding, and then we show it in the tip based on their split letter that they get. So, and that funding, is just an aside, that transit funding is supplemented with AMATS funding that we put towards bus buy programs or shelter programs or some other pretty exciting things that we have in the program, like a downtown transit center or a Muldoon Transit Center, other things like that. Then there's other funding, kind of the everything else in table 10. And it's an old earmark for the University Lake Drive project. And then there are discretionary grants like the Protect Grant or the Rural Tribal Assistance Program grants. And that's about 28 million over the 4-year period for projects. It's typically kind of our least funded section, which is not unheard of because we don't get a lot of discretionary grants on a regular basis. Okay, so how did we kind of develop the program? Well, first, we looked at the 23 through 26 tip, and we noted any of the projects that need to be carried forward into the 27 through 30 because they're underway. So either in design or right-of-way, or they anticipate construction in the 27 through 30 time period. And we use that to kind of build the program based on when those needs are. We also recognize that we need to get some new projects into the program as well, because not the 27 through 30, but the 31 through 34 program is coming up soon in a few years. And so we need to make sure that we're ready for that. And so what we did is we reviewed the top 20 or the top 14 to 15 projects in the MTP, and selected projects that were ones that were easy to start and design for the 27 through 30 time period. We really looked at projects that were maybe a little less expensive than the current ones we have. We have a lot of really expensive projects in our program. You know, $50 million for fireweed. Spenard is a 30 million for each section of it. Those can get pretty spendy, and the costs are kind of only going up. So we have to be mindful of that. So staff was making some recommendations for easier, cheaper projects. So we made some revisions to the tables 2 through 6. Tables 7 through 10, the changes that we made were based on input given to us from our partner agencies, because those are really their tables that they need in our tip to reflect what they're doing. So DOT gave us some, Muni, PM&E did, and then Transit for the railroad and public transportation gave us that information. So one of the things that we started this go around was to have early work sessions with the committees, the Technical Advisory Committee and Policy Committee. We held 2 work sessions in September with the committees to go over the projects and get some feedback. It was pretty interesting meetings, I have to say. We heard some surprising feedback from some of the committee members, some concerns about some of the projects, but I think it was really good to hear that feedback and also to hear some pretty positive support for some of the new projects. Now, unfortunately, there were some projects that we had to move into what is known as the illustrative category, basically projects that are not expected to receive funding before FY 2031. Part of what we have to do with our funding program is be fiscally constrained, so we can only use the funding we can anticipate to receive over that time period. We have to balance our checkbooks, basically. And since we have a lot of projects that are underway, there are a lot of costs throughout the program. So there were some projects that we had to move to beyond 2030, and they are not anticipated in receiving funding in the 27 through 30 funding program. And one thing to note is the projects are still ongoing, and we can add them back in at a later date if additional funding comes available. That typically can happen with another project is slipped because of more time to do design or other things like that, and then we can move another project in its place. So I'll point out what the illustrative projects are, but don't worry, they're still underway. So the illustrative list: Rabbit Creek Road rehabilitation, Potter Drive rehabilitation, Academy Drive, Vanguard Drive, area traffic circulation improvements, Chugach Way rehabilitation, and then multi-use pathway on Tudor, or it's a multi-use pathway from Tudor Road to Northern Lights Boulevard. I'll explain a little bit more about that one. That one's kind of an interesting one. Okay, there were some new projects, like I said, because we recognize we still need to keep projects moving forward. And there were two new ones that we added for complete streets. One was the 15th Avenue Rehabilitation Project from I to Cordova, and the other was AMAT's Denali Street Complete Street Project from Fireweed to Tudor. So it's the entire length of Denali Street. So 15th Avenue, we have just a quick little picture here, so you can kind of see where it is. It will include intersection improvements as well, I Street and Cordova in the area. The idea here was to take a look at this road and see if there's some changes that we can make to how it's kind of currently configured. You know, it has two-way left turn lane through large chunks of it. And one of the things we want to look at for that project is that two-way left turn lane still needed? Or is there an opportunity to maybe remove the two-way left turn lane and put more buffering between the roadway and the pathways, or to put on street bike facilities? That would be something we'd have to look at. I think this picture here is kind of a good idea of why we should look at it, because we have trash cans on the sidewalk here. So trying to find ways to help keep those from being obstructions for users of the facilities. Plus, not all of the sidewalks are maybe as comfortable because they're right next to a roadway. As you can see over here, there's no real buffering. So there's some options to look at here. We don't exactly know what's going to happen, but those are the ideas. Pretty excited for this project. Next, we have the Denali Complete Street Project. Again, I think there's some exciting opportunities with this project to go ahead and make some changes. It's all over the place. It's 5-lane in one section, it's 3-lane in another section, 4-lane in another section. It kind of goes back and forth between everything. So the idea is kind of take a look at the whole road and decide, what does the community want with this? Do you want it to be 5-lane all the way through? Do you want it to be 3-lane? Do you want it to be 2-lane? What are some of the configurations that you want in this area? So they will also include looking at making some improvements at the Tudor Road intersection. For anybody who uses that area as an active transportation users, can be a challenge to get through. Typically long waits, and it's not a complete intersection, so you can only cross Tudor on one side. So the idea is take a look at, is there an opportunity to make it a more complete intersection and connect it with the existing facilities on the north side and south side of Denali Street. Okay, we have some new projects for the active transportation program. The AMAT's Tudor Road to Roosevelt connection, and then we have the Hyder Pedestrian Boulevard, 15th to 5th. So I mentioned earlier that there's an illustrative project, multi-use pathway Tudor Road to Northern Lights. This was a project originally in the 23 through 26 TIP funding program to do some kind of new pathway connection from Tudor Road, kind of right where you had the Spenard Builders supply area, up to Northern Lights where the Fish Creek Trail is, and just give another opportunity for people to be able to make that kind of north-south, north-ish connection. However, looking at it, there may be some complications. The railroad right-of-way in that area is pretty tight. We're not really sure which side of the railroad it needs to go on, and there was a lack of match funding for this project because so much funding is being used on other projects like the Downtown Trail Connection and the Fish Creek Trail. So the idea was to put this one on hold for a little bit, let the Fish Creek Trail project finish, and see where we want to go from there. However, there's a portion of the project that we looked at that might be possible to get done now, and that is making some improvements and adding some new facilities in this portion that's along Tudor Road from Minnesota over to the Fish Creek Trail. So it crosses over the railroad tracks. It goes in front of this refrigeration company, or equipment company here, and connects with this existing pathway here that goes north up to Roosevelt, or you can go west over to the Fish Creek Trail. So the idea here is there's kind of like a little missing gap in the system. And you can see that there is a well-used human trail in this area here. So it might be an opportunity to make, to improve this section that exists over here on the east side, and then actually add something in for people to use it safely and maybe make it a little bit more comfortable for them to use instead of being right next to the freight users. I will let you know, I recently found out um, that the Muni has some work that they need to do here at this railroad crossing. So we're trying to make sure that we coordinate with the work that the Muni needs to do so we're not duplicating efforts. So I think what we're going to try and recommend is that the Muni not do any work here for the pedestrian active transportation crossing and let our project come along and make sure that we get the whole thing looked at in one go and don't piecemeal it and kind of make two things that don't function very well. We actually, as AMAT staff, went out and did a walkthrough of this area here. And Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things we talked about is maybe seeing if we can move any kind of trail to behind the signal equipment here or out of the way of the arm mast or something like that to make it a little bit more comfortable for people. So I think there's some really good opportunities to make some good changes in this area here. Even if it is a minor connection, I think it's an important one for us to make sure we have in place. Next project is, oh yeah, as you can see here, you know, when you look at it, you can really see how well used this area here next to the refrigeration company is. It's its own path already, so we might as well go in there and install something for people to use that's a little more comfortable. Okay, next is the Hyder Pedestrian Boulevard. I'm sure most of you are aware that the Seward to Glen PEL is underway. I believe they're close to finishing in the next 3 to 5 months, something like that. And of all the alternatives that they've recommended, or the primary alternative, the improvements for Hyder are necessary and able to be done regardless of what alternative is selected for the Seward to Glen connection. So staff made the recommendation to go ahead and get that project started in 2027. So get the design work started in 2027 for it. You know, there's definitely going to be some challenges with this project. I'll be blunt. There's some concerns about how are people going to cross 15th Avenue in the south, and then what are we going to do at 5th and 6th and get people across those roads. But I think it's an awesome opportunity to have that discussion with the community about what they want this to look like. You know, what kind of facility do they want for this area here? And it's something that we can do regardless of what happens with the Seward to Glen connection. So pretty excited to move forward on that if this is approved by everybody. Okay, then we have some new plans and studies. So of course we have our next long range plan update, the MTP update. We have our next safety plan update, which Emily will be heading. So we're pretty excited for that. There's some pretty big things that we're looking for that project. So I'm really excited. Then we have one project that was moved from the 26 fiscal year, the AC corridor plan, into 29. The reason for that is there's limited staff at DOT, so they don't have the staff to be able to move forward on that plan in 26. So we delayed it to 29 to get the Muldoon Road Corridor plan started ahead of that one. And as you can see, the Muldoon Road Corridor plan. AC is going to include the entire couplet from Tudor to 3rd Avenue. And then the Muldoon Road is going to be the entire thing from the Tudor curve to the J Bear Gate. So this is kind of similar to other, we already have corridor plans in place or that are going. Minnesota and INL is underway right now that should be done within the next few months. And then we have Tudor Road is the next corridor plan started. Northern Lights Benson will be after that. And then we'll get into Muldoon and then we'll do AC after that. So a lot of these primary corridors are getting their plans and they're being done by the Department of Transportation. So we're pretty excited for those. Then there's some new National Highway System projects by the Department of Transportation. There's a second stage of the Glen Highway Incident Management Traffic Accommodations. It's just more work for an existing project. Same with the next one for the Glen Highway Milepost 1 to 34 rehabilitation. And then a project has come back. It's the Seward Highway O'Malley to Diamond Boulevard reconstruction. That project was paused for a while DOT reassessed it. They're looking at redoing the purpose and need for that project. The policy committee adjusted the description, the scope of the project recently, where they removed any of the scope regarding an expansion of the highway project. So now they're really looking at more of active transportation connectivity in the area, active transportation safety in the area, and then how to help with the connectivity of the neighborhood in the area. So pretty excited for that project. Okay, next steps for you all. What we're going to be doing right now, actually, since we're a little past when this presentation was developed, we're doing the interagency consultation and air quality demonstration work. So this is one of the requirements that we have to do because we are in a limited maintenance area, which means we have air quality concerns. And what we have to do is we have to do a report that says none of the projects that we're doing in the tip will impact our ability to address our air quality concerns. And we have to do an interagency consultation with EPA, DEC, state DOT, the Muni Health Group, and FHWA and FTA and say, yep, we're all going to be good with air quality. We have no problems moving forward. Then we're going to do a 45-day public comment period starting in January. It will include an assembly public hearing. As we've noted, you can see the documents now. They're available for everybody to get your comments started. So, please take a minute to review it and start getting your comments ready so you can get them in January. You're welcome to submit them before January if you want to. We just have to have an official public comment period, and that is 45 days starting January 1st. As I said earlier, final approval is anticipated by the PC in March of 2026, depending upon how the public comment period, and then maybe a month or two after, hopefully we'll get incorporation into the STIP by the state of Alaska. So that's all I had for my presentation. Thank you. Oh, real quick, this slide is outdated. We have an updated one that shows all of the pets of AMATs. So I just want to let you know we're not intentionally ignoring everybody else's pet. This is just an older presentation.
Some cats now involved.
Yep.
Very,
Yep.
very nice. Thanks, Erin. Does anyone have questions for Erin? And hello, Lynn. And I see there's also a Lizzie Newell who joined us. Any questions from folks? Comment? Nothing. I'll share a comment. I just appreciate AMAT's taking a look at some projects that might seem small, like you said, that like Roosevelt connection, but make a big difference, especially as we have a lot of big projects in the works. They take so long, and we can really make a big difference if we start to take on some of these like missing links or really important, challenging and dangerous little connectors. So really appreciate kind of a new approach to the transportation system.
Thank you.
I was glad to see Hyder on there, Hyder Street.
Love it. All right, thank you.
Can I chime in with an administrative detail while we're on the topic?
Please.
So like Erin mentioned, comments will be due in mid-February. So the BPAC is not scheduled to meet again until March 2nd or 3rd or something like that. But we do have the opportunity to adjust that schedule if the committee would like to maybe go for the first Monday in February, just a month earlier, so that you guys would have a chance to bring forward any comments and vote on those comments and submit those comments as a committee. You're also more than welcome to submit comments as individuals and or your organizations, but that could be an opportunity if you guys would like.
That sounds great. I would love to move forward with the first Monday in February, if we can do that, and just confirm with other VPAC members. And I see, Lizzie, you've got your hand raised. Go ahead, ask your question or share your comment.
So I've got my mic on.
We can
Okay,
hear
good. I'm interested to see that you're moving on the Diamond O'Malley stuff. Is there more information somewhere on that?
No, right now, the Department of Transportation is put together a stakeholder working group to redo the purpose and need of that project. And so that stakeholder group is underway. We just have it shown in our funding program because they asked for it so they could actually get federal funding to do that stakeholder work. So you'll have to reach out to the Department of Transportation if you want to know more. They don't really have too much right now because we've only had one stakeholder group, and I think the next one's coming up this Thursday.
Oh, okay, thank you.
you. And
Okay.
Katie put a question in the chat for you, Erin. She was wondering, you said you've heard some concerns. What were those? Can you say what that was referring to, Katie?
Erin, I think it was when you were talking about having presented to the TAC.
Oh,
Yeah, I think there were some concerns specifically around the pavement projects that we're showing in the table 6 right now, because a lot of them are focused towards DOT roads. There was some concern, maybe we need some more muni roads in there instead. And is there a possibility to be able to do that? And there were some concerns and discussions about the Hyder project, whether that was something AMAT should be focusing on, because it's a smaller project, maybe not a regionally significant project. But staff felt that it's still an important project for us to move forward because it's really one piece of 3 that needs to be done. And so we really need to get it done. So let's do it. And I think the committee members had a good discussion on it. And so far, everybody's been in agreement to keep it into the program, but I don't know what their final decision will be.
great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Going back to the agenda, Emily, do we have 6 members or are we still at 5?
We are at 5.
Okay, so we are just informational and discussing, but we cannot vote and take actions. But our next agenda item was to discuss our Vision Zero letter revisions, which we cannot vote on. But maybe, Emily, could you share your screen to show the letter? I'll give a little bit of context and background. Maybe we can discuss, but I don't know if or how we can take action again. But we discussed this topic back in September as we headed into the darkest part of the season where we know that lots more collisions and fatalities happen. We tried to send a letter through the AMAT's Technical Advisory Committee and the Policy Committee to the Vision Zero work group, essentially the municipality's traffic department, and then the state of Alaska Department of Transportation Central Region. And there was a lot of discussion at both of those committee meetings, but ultimately the policy committee asked to send the letter back to us for some more consideration and analysis. So this is a revised letter trying to address some of the questions they had. Some of the issues they brought up was saying, hey, asking us to do something immediately can be really technically challenging. So can we clarify what we mean by that? I'll just speak that I'm really disappointed that this advisory letter, just trying to point to urgency and action, failed to move forward, because even in the time it was considered 4 more people have been killed on our roadways the last few months. These actions also, of course, are actions that the Vision Zero working group had already determined that they wanted to move forward within, a few months to a year, and we're past a year now. So not sure what we can do procedurally other than shake our angry fists at the slow action that's really honestly resulting in more people killed in our community. And so just want to open it up to the group if anyone has any questions or recommendations for some next steps. And I'll also just say that this draft letter, I sent it to a couple VPAC members so that we could kind of revise it and try to make those adjustments to address the concerns that we had. But yeah, just open it up if anyone has questions or maybe recommendations for some next steps, if any.
Emily, can you keep scrolling?
And I guess I'll also say, even though this letter was not moved forward, because of who serves on the technical advisory committee and the policy committee, both our traffic engineer and the central region director reviewed the letter, I think had some internal discussions with their departments, but ultimately don't have to respond or address why these actions haven't been taken yet. But I guess I'm also hopeful that since we're kind of at these milestones of passing a year, that they had been giving kind of those periodic report updates. So potentially we'll get, a report that they'll be submitting to the assembly, so we can, I guess, talk with or urge assembly members to also try to get some accountability and again push for some more urgency and action and based on the report.
Does it make sense to send it to the assembly? I know we can't vote on this particular letter, but I mean, should we? I don't know. I guess we don't have a meeting before then, I guess January. That would be too late. So I guess individually we could send a copy of the draft letter to assembly members if we wanted to.
Yeah, I think some individual actions is something that we can certainly take. Emily or Aaron, do you have any recommendations of what we can do, or is this just, again, something we'll have to wait until maybe our next meeting in February to take on? Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I think from my remembrance at the meeting, I think there was some concern by the Muni administration representative on the policy committee that things are being asked for in a time frame that they can't necessarily do because of limited staff time. So one of the things they asked for is kind of what is the immediate priority? What do you guys want to see that may take priority over something else? Is there something else that you're okay with delaying to get something? Like, for example, speed studies have to be done in order to do speed reductions on roadways. That takes a lot of time, money, and effort. And same with the pilot projects. So which would you like to prioritize, the speed reduction studies or the pilot projects? And I'm not trying to say one way or the other. I'm just based on what I heard at that meeting. I think that's what they were asking for, is some kind of feedback there, because they live in a world where they can't have all of it at once. They have to make budget decisions, and that's kind of a hard thing for them. I will note that one of the challenges is it takes more than a year to do a pilot project generally, because it takes some time to get the materials, to get all the organization put together with staff, to get the public engagement started, to get a consultant on board who helps them, then to get the materials in, to install it, because we typically do them during the summer. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're asking for pilot projects. They're really hard to do with some of the funding that's available. So, and I will note that the Northern Lights Boulevard road diet, there's been some issues with some of that, because I know the Safe Streets for All Brigade grant was going to look at doing a pilot project on the Northern Lights Boulevard as part of that grant, but FHWA and USDOT came out that pilot projects like that, or lane reductions, capacity reductions, are not an eligible part of the Safe Streets for All grant program. So that has put a little bit of a kink into any kind of pilot project there. And then there's the lane reduction directive. I understand that there's some concerns regarding that and that possible, if that would delay things. There's not much AMATs can do regarding that. So I understand the frustration on that, but I think it puts the policy members in a weird spot, because they're like, how are we supposed to respond to something that we don't have the authority to say yay or nay to? So it's basically setting the policy committee up for failure. So I think it's just, I understand this is a sensitive topic for everybody. There are fatalities that are happening and we want to do something about them. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going to forward a letter back to the policy committee member. There's some tough conversations that have to be had. And I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily know if those are being had in a serious level. So that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Sure. Aaron, process-wise, since we can't take action today and can't forward it on, do you have any recommendations for what actions we could take tonight, if anything?
Basically, my recommendation would be discuss the letter, discuss changes that you guys would want to see. If you have any, obviously, talk amongst yourself about, what's good, what's bad, what works, what doesn't. And then you'll have to wait until your next meeting, or you can call a special meeting if you want to try and get people together. That's up to you guys, how you want to handle that. But at this point, there's not a whole lot that can be done. I think this was posted to the agenda, wasn't it? This letter that's open in front of, so it's out there for the public. So yeah, you can forward it on to assembly members, you can forward it on to whoever you want, so they at least have the information. If I recall, I think the assembly members of the policy committee supported this letter going forward. I think there was some concern from the Muni and DOT about it going forward, and that's what ended up, sending it back to BPAC. So, also keep that in mind. I think the assembly members support the idea of something moving forward. There's just some concerns regarding some of the language in there. I will say some of the language I've seen changed, I think is very helpful, especially on number 3, where you're talking about the traffic enforcement. I love the fact that you guys changed it from specifically the traffic department doing the automated enforcement to the Muni needs to look at doing that. I think that was one of the concerns. So thank you for helping to address that. I think some of those kind of changes are going to be really helpful when this comes back to the policy committee.
Great, thanks. Any questions or comments or recommendations for revising language in the letter? I'll just step back and say, like, it is a really complicated issue, and we are volunteer advisory committee members trying to pull out recommended actions that are outlined in the action report, to have occurred within 1 month to 6 months that have been delayed. And we're saying, hey, can you make this happen within a year? Recognizing that the answer might be no. But these actions we tried to pull up as priorities, recognizing the action report has a lot more actions and activities listed in there. So hard to say, do this, not that. We're saying do these things first because they'll make an impact on the ground. And so we tried to stress that a little bit more in this letter. If we're talking trade-offs, let's focus our capacity and staffing on these things that will actually change speed or driving behavior, things like that. So.
I think I just want to say I appreciate the changes that were made. My only question actually was about what Aaron had pointed out, whether the change to MOA was would address Brad Coy's concerns. And it sounds like, Aaron, you feel like that was a good change. But otherwise, I think the specific language about timeline is really good. I mean, of course, I'd like to see everything immediately implemented, but barring that, I think timelines is a good way to go.
Great, thanks, Katie. Okay, any questions or comments from the public? Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
Sorry, I just thought of something for the number 3, that automated enforcement. It says the MOA. Is there anything the state has to change in order to allow automated enforcement? Or is it just a Muni-wide change? Do you guys know?
My understanding is it's just municipality because it's enshrined in our charter. So
Okay.
the Muni has to address that political side.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think DOT has even said that they're moving towards trialing some automated enforcement stuff in other locations.
And I think that's one of the recommendations, the visions, like the first Vision Zero action plan from maybe way back in the day, called that out as a priority effort. Okay, I don't know that we will be able to muster the voices for another special meeting. We'll continue to raise this with decision makers and at other different committee levels. But if we can take action on this and bring it back in February, do that. All right, those were our two big agenda topics. So now we just have committee comments and public comments, and then we can adjourn. So I'll open it up for committee comments. I know Diana has some comments, so I'll kick it over to Diana and you all can think about what you want to say.
Thank you. I just want to, every year the Anchorage Park Foundation puts together a list, and I'm just going to pull it up and I'm going to put it in the chat. But it's called A Community Vision for Connecting Anchorage. And it's like it's a map, and it shows projects on it, kind of dream projects, but also projects that are already happening that are active transportation or trails. There's several AMATS projects on there. And so I'm putting it in the link. But I just wanted to put it out there. If anybody has any comments on it, we like to update it every year. It's a big map of Anchorage. It includes the AMATs, the Fish Creek Trail connection. It includes the Coastal Trail connection. It's just got a number of different projects on it. And I want people on this committee, because you're experienced and you have ideas and suggestions, to reach out if you have something that you want to add to it or edits made to it. We're trying to make this be a robust document that does truly reflect the community's wishes. When Anchorage Park Foundation first put together the Moose Loop, it was just showing what our active transportation connections there currently are by all of our multi-use trails, and then thinking about how to connect every neighborhood in Anchorage to those multi-use trails for safer activity. But there are other ones that are on the list, ones you might not have heard of before, or ones you'd like to add to it, and just want to throw it out there for anybody to contact me, Diana, at anchorageparkfoundation.org if you have any suggestions. We'll be updating it in January. So we have we update it all year long, honestly. We can change it on the map. It's a file that we can update, but just want to have people's ideas of what they think. Could be small, it's not the big stuff necessarily for AMATs, but we just want to have that out there, and we hand it off to whoever wants to look at it or take a copy of it or see it on the website, to just make sure somewhere we're documenting connections that we want to make.
Great, thank you, Diana. Lizzie, do you have a question or comment for Diana?
Yeah, Diana, where do we get into that map?
You can't get into the map because it's one of those ones that we have to design. So if you just want to send me your connection, but it's on our website right now.
Okay.
It's on our website at anchorageparkfoundation.org, and it's the trails. So you can just send me, we need a connection here. We need a connection here. It's like the street or a project, and then we get our graphic designer to add it to the map.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure. I want to take a look at the map, see what you've got. Thank you.
And I've got it in the chat here, but yeah, it's anchorageparkfoundation.org, Anchorage Trails Initiative.
Would you mind putting your email in the chat so we have that?
Yes, I'll do it.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Any other comments from committee members?
Hi, can I jump in here?
Please, yes, Lynn.
Hi.
Welcome to your first meeting.
Thank you. Um, I guess I just wanted to say a couple of things. I'm here kind of on behalf of Bike Anchorage. They threw a question out there. I'm throwing to the group. I don't know if anyone knows the answer, and I'll dig into it if no one does. But the question was, who is reviewing the comments submitted for safety hazard reports on the Muni's snow removal page? Some have been submitted, and we're just curious what the process is for responding to those comments. Does anyone know? And if not, I will just dig into that myself.
Sorry, I don't. And I'm wondering if I even know which page.
What the portal is for that, yeah.
Yeah, the portal.
Okay, I'll dig into that. Thank you. And then just another area that I have passion that I just kind of want to throw out there for consideration as we move forward with different things, especially around the traffic enforcement. Um, APD traffic enforcement seems to be reducing, and I'm curious if they're intentional about that, or if they're giving any feedback about it. And I'm particularly curious about enforcement of tinted window laws, because that does make safety, that is, I think, a pretty big safety issue. So it's just something I'm probably going to try to bring up a lot and see where we can maybe plug in feedback and see if we can get some responses. But I'm throwing that out there to see if anyone else has sort of started that work already that I can jump in on.
Erin.
Yeah, that's a tough subject because so it was a subject that's come up at some of the fatality site visits that we've gone to, that Emily and I and others from the Muni and DOT and APD have gone to. I believe Anna Boson with DOT is raising that as a concern, so she might be a really good point of contact for you. I can put her name in the chat. I can put her contact info in the chat, and you might want to reach out to her and just express your interest in that. I would recommend maybe keeping Emily involved as well, and Lindsay, whoever else you want, because that's a good thing for us, because it may come through, for information to the TAC and Policy Committee to help get that information out to people when you find out more about it. Because I think that is a question that others have asked as well, is what does that kind of enforcement look like these days?
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. I know when Anna gave some presentations to community councils when Vision Zero working group was kicking off, she had some data, like a third of the fatalities in the last 5 years had cars with tinted windows, which is a huge percentage of vehicles compared to how many tinted windows are. But I don't know where else that information goes. That's part of why in our draft letter, we said, hey, can you make those like fatality reports public? Because we do a lot of blame for pedestrians when there's so many other factors that go into those collisions and fatalities, and tinted windows is one of those. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, there may also be some opportunities to address that through this committee. So you guys are always welcome to suggest agenda items, and it could be like, Lynn, if you email me and say, I want to know more about enforcement, and that's all you have to say, right? That's all you have to know. I'm not entirely sure where that would go, but I am absolutely here and available to pursue those kinds of things for you if you'd like that on an agenda as an informational item. I had another thought. Oh, also the Muni does an annual traffic safety report. And I don't know if they get into that level of detail, like tinted windows or not. But the 2024 report came out relatively recently. And that is also something that we could have on the BPAC agenda, to have the lead of that report come and talk to you guys and just give you an overview of what's in the report and, what the trends are and things like that.
Thank you. Thanks. Anything else, Lynn?
No, but I will be sharing that map around. So thank you, Diana.
Cool. Any other comments?
I had one more comment if you're ready for me.
Please, yes.
Oh, Diana, did you want to go first? Okay. So as we have established, we are still missing several members of our committee. We have several vacant seats still. I think we have 3. The good news is we did get 2 applications for the public member seat. So those are both going to the TAC this week and then the policy committee in 2 weeks. And hopefully that person will be confirmed and on board in time for the February meeting. We will still have vacancies for the business associated seat. That can be anybody associated with a business who's sort of authorized to represent that business. Doesn't have to be bike specific business, but let all your friends know if anybody's interested in biking or walking and would like to be involved. And then the other seat is the community or environmental organization seat. So there's tons of things that could qualify for that and certainly relevant ones as well. So yeah, please keep spreading the word.
Thanks, Emily. So we have 2 applicants for 1 public member seat. Is that what you're?
Yes.
Oh,
I know. I was looking at both their resumes trying to figure out if either of them could qualify for the other 2 seats, and I don't think so.
and I feel like even myself or Diana, like we could potentially be a community/environmental seat. Could we shift, or is that not allowed? Think about it, Aaron.
Defer to Aaron on that. Yeah, he's thinking.
I was like, I don't really see any reason why not. We would just have to bring it before the TAC and policy committee and say, here's what our plan is. You know, this person was brought in as this seat. We're recommending they switch over to this seat because it really is a good fit for them. And then we have 2 options for those other 2 seats to fill in. So I don't imagine that the TAC or policy committee will say no. So if that's what we want to do, we just need to get that. We would just need to figure that out, who moves to where, and get that before them. It's a little too late for this meeting, so we'll have to get it in January, before the TAC and policy committee if we want to appoint one of the other 2 people we got to that, to whatever we do with this. We can do it, but it'll have to be January.
Okay.
Is that worth us mentioning on Thursday, Aaron, when we bring those 2 applications to the TAC? And I can just say there was some discussion that maybe we can shift qualified people to the vacant seats.
Yeah, I think if you want to lay out a plan of attack with Lindsay on maybe who we're looking at, who we can shift, who are some options we can shift of existing committee members, what seat we can shift them to, and then kind of lay that out before them and say we'll bring it back in January because it might help the committee members because I think both applicants are very well qualified for BPAC. And I've been talking to people and I'm like, we want to make sure that we utilize people who are interested. So I think this would be really cool if we could mention at the TAC and PC this month or December meetings.
Great. I'll work with you, Emily, to come up with the proposed plan because I saw the 2 resumes and I thought they would bring some really good expertise and different perspectives to the team. So I don't want to just say, oh, sorry, just one.
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
be the one to switch. If you want to switch me,
Me too.
that'd be fine.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we'll figure something out. And yeah, it was tough to have to recommend one of those over the other and just going with the one that was received first. And it'd be wonderful if they can both join us. So yeah, and if it comes before the committees in January, that would be in time for the February meeting, which would be great.
Thank you. Awesome. Any other comments, questions, committee members, member of the public? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I know it's tough to join these evening meetings mid-holiday time. So appreciate everybody taking some time to talk about this issue. I know our little advisory letters are hard to move forward, but we of course will keep at it. And just always want to stress it's really difficult and dangerous out there. So everybody stay safe when you walk, bike, roll, however you get around our community. It's especially dark again now that everything is melted and freezing into ice. So please be careful and safe out there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Bye.
Thank you.